Welcome to Second Act Sisters with Kiora and Brooke. We're so glad you're here. Have you ever felt like you weren't enough, like you were constantly striving for something more, something better? I know I have. In today's episode, we're bringing in a very special guest, Alicia States. Together, we'll dive deep into the world of self-love and explore how we can retrain our brains to cultivate a more positive relationship with ourselves. So turn off your notifications, grab a pen and paper, and get ready to grow.
Okay, so we're going to start out with our whys this time, and I will go first. And as I navigate this phase in life, I'm grateful to finally be learning skills that could have served me well years ago. Better late than never, right? So growth is a lifelong journey, and I'm thankful for the opportunity life continues to offer for learning and self-improvement, and the opportunity to share with those that I love.
That's an awesome why. So my why is because I wish I had been given all of these tools that I've been learning over the past few years earlier in my life. And because of that wish, I just want to get all of this information out into the world so that other people can learn and have access to the things that they need to love themselves at all stages of their growth.
Awesome. And Alicia, would you like to jump in?
Sure would. Thanks for having me. My why is I also wish very much that I had learned these things, these concepts and tools earlier in my life. When I was in complete overwhelm raising my 6 kids, and when my marriage of 17 years at the time hit the rocks, no one in my circle knew how to help me heal my marriage. And I believe that God led me to coaching, and where I learned about my brain and my emotions and how to take responsibility for my life. And so my why is I'm really passionate about helping women reconnect with themselves so they can experience more peace and have breakthroughs in their relationship and their spirituality.
Love it.
She's really good at it too.
She is. So I'm going to take a moment and just introduce our special guest with us today. And as we said, this is Alicia States. And Alicia is an eclectic homeschooling mom of 6, life coach for married women, entrepreneur with 2 small businesses because, 6 kids isn't enough, and a lifelong member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She grew up on the island of Kauai, and at the age of 18, she met her husband. She married Cam in 2005, and they lived in Utah for 15 years. And in 2020, moved to rural Missouri, where they live on 20 acres, which sounds like heaven, with 3 dogs, even more heaven, some chickens and ducks in the middle of an Amish community. Mm-hmm. That sounds just amazing.
Isn't that funny?
It does. I love it. And I love seeing when you post on social media. I love going on those little walks with you, or feeling like I could just run off the little dock you've made and jump into your pond.
Yep.
So great. Maybe we'll come visit you someday.
It is pretty magical. It's a lot of work to live so rural and have animals to take care of and property, but it's just really, it's something else. I love it. And then literally our neighbors go by in their horses and buggies, and you're like, wait, what year is it? Because but it's just our normal now. That's our norm. Isn't that funny?
Sounds so awesome. Yeah.
You'll have to come visit.
Yes. I would love to. Girls trip.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Is it cold there?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, we'll wait till it warms up.
Yep, for sure. Well, thanks for having me.
We're very excited. We would love to have you just jump right in and introduce what you're going to teach us today.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll be teaching me as much as anything. We're just going to kind of have a discussion. One thing that I'm kind of conflicted about, but excited about, is this coaching space that I'm in now. Kind of feels like just the conversations we should be having anyway in our circles. But a lot of these things are newer concepts and kind of new vocabulary to put these these ideas that I think we know, and intuitively when we hear them, we're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Why didn't I already know that? And a lot of it feels like just kind of like a coming home in this space. And so, so I'm going to just kind of open up the conversation because it can take on a life of its own. So we'll explore some topics. But we're going to focus on self-love. And that is just that word in and of itself. Just notice what comes up for you, right? Like when you hear self-love, is it like, oh, self-love, or it's like, oh, self-love, or yeah, what is self-love? You know, that can bring up a lot of different things for all of us when we hear that word. So I think it's helpful to start with just like, what are we talking about when we say self-love?
I love that. When we were talking to you about having you on as a guest and about all of the things that you teach and you coach and all of the little mini things, mini classes and things, you had said that we should start with self-love because you have to learn self-love before you can work on being a better wife and a better mom and a better friend or whatever. So I love that you pointed that out to me because it's true. We've got to work on ourselves first. So
yeah, we do. And that was my experience. Is I was checking all the boxes. I was doing all the things. I was outwardly but my internal experience, the way I spoke to myself, the critical thoughts I had of the people around me, I was completely unaware of and unaccountable for. Just saying, but I'm being nice, but I'm doing the things. I don't know what's going on and why this isn't fitting. Right. And so, yeah, when my marriage hit the rocks, that was a huge wake up call for me to figure out what I can control and what I can't control. And so self-love for me was just like, oh, it's going on vacations and it's going to the spa and it's getting massages and it's, you know, those kinds of things. And that just like, I'm like doing those things. Right. But still something internally was not, there was still turmoil. There was still conflict. There was still contention. There was still resentment. And so when we talk about self-love, what is it? This is not just, I love myself more than everybody else. I'm just going to put me first and forget about everybody else. Cause I think that's the fear is like, but if I love me, then I'm going to somehow not take care of the people around me. But that we're going to just kind of flip that on its head and get curious about that and question that, because my own experience and the women I trained with and the women that I coach there's so many stories and evidence that it's actually the opposite. When you pause and check in with yourself, what do I need? How do I feel about myself? What's really going on internally for me? Then as you increase in the love for yourself, it's an honesty. This is not a just forget about everybody else. I just have to make me happy. That's not what it is. Real self-love and loving ourselves is really reflecting and really honesty is the word that comes up, is this honesty with what's going on. Why am I sad? Why am I resentful? Right? So that's the space I want to come to. And then I would also, and I understand that your audience is probably mostly members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as well, pairing that, or Christians in general, pairing that with Christ-like self-love. That's kind of like in the brackets before that is this Christ-like self-love. Christ-like self-love. And that being because he loves us the way that he does, I can love me too. So that's kind of the space that, isn't that beautiful? And so it really is deep. And as we can heal our relationship with ourselves, as we develop our relationship with ourselves, and we'll talk more about how to do that, it affects the way that we treat ourselves. It affects the way that we show up in our relationships. It shows up in our spirituality and our religious practices. Like it affects everything. And so diving into this, getting curious, and it's a journey. It's not something we just flip the switch on and all of a sudden we have this self-love and then everything changes. It is a process, and it's a beautiful process. So as you lean into it, as you try it, as you question it, and you get a taste of it, then you're like, okay, tell me more. I'm seeing the fruits. The fruit is good. So,
and it's right, because when you start going through the practice of getting curious and working through these thoughts, all of a sudden you just feel this warmth. And I think it's the spirit, but not everybody might may or may not say the same thing, but I feel like it's the spirit. But you feel this warmth and this loosening of all of the tightness in your body, and it's just an amazing process.
Yeah, it does feel good, and that's what. So self-love, and we'll talk a little about self-care because they go hand in hand. But self-love is an internal experience, and self-care is the external. And so we'll talk more about that when we talk about the how-tos, but that's important, I think, to kind of differentiate in our minds. The self-love is an internal thing. And so here's what I want to do real quick. Okay. So when you think about self-love, love is, if it's this internal experience, it's a feeling. Okay. So I'm going to open this up to you guys. What does love feel like? Love for yourself, others, whatever, like just love or love from the Savior. What does love feel like? Like, just take a deep breath and like feel that for a second and tell me what that feels like, or you imagine it feeling like.
Well, I know when I think about like my kids or my husband, it is a warm, happy, light feeling. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the biggest, happiest smile. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes me want to smile, but it just feels that feeling when something makes you smile, it just feels that way.
Just go hug them all.
Yeah.
Like
it feels like a hug.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So that's the goal. Okay. So that feeling of love is what we're going through. And so when we feel that, and we can feel that for ourselves, and we'll talk more about that. We come from abundance, right? So when our cup is full and we feel that for ourselves, we are going to give from abundance instead of feeling resentful and all these other things. So that's the feeling we're going for when we talk about self-love. So I just want to like plug that in, and we'll get more into that. So here's the next question. Why is it so hard for us, especially as women? Why is this so challenging to let ourselves love to allow this love for ourselves to be there? Why are we so critical of ourselves? What, you tell me, like, what are the challenges that you see or that you experience?
Oh, sorry, I had my mute on. Do you want to go first, Kiora?
No, because no.
No? Okay. So I thought about this, and I do not want anybody to take this the wrong way that might be listening. I love my mother. She is one of my very best friends. She is my exemplar. I just love her. And I think she has done the best job possible raising me. But I think that so many of the reasons we have these thoughts go off in our brain is because of the influence of how we were raised and what the expectations were, what the bar was for how we performed in everything that we did, whether it was in school or in our extracurriculars, like in piano for me, or playing with our friends, how we treated our friends. That influence of our mothers plays a big part in it. And I think if we feel like we're not measuring up to what our mothers think we should be measuring up to, that's the first point of where we start to have these negative opinions of ourselves, which if our mothers knew, they'd be mortified. Like, I don't think that they would ever want us to feel that we were not living up to our potentials and that we weren't good enough, that we weren't perfect enough, and just enough, just the word enough, right? So I think that's one thing that plays into how we mistreat ourselves. And I also think our communities, whether it's the community we live in, the community we worship in, the community we work in, and also the things that we digest from social media, where we're looking at everybody else and that grass is greener kind of blanket statement that goes on everything. And it's not. And it just creates a lot of noise that we just can't block out sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's hard.
Yeah. And I think that and you can throw your 2 cents in on this too, but as women, especially, we're like programmed or taught, or the examples are to put ourselves last.
Yep.
That we serve and we serve, and our children come first, and they do, especially when they're itty bitty little tiny things and they depend on us. Like, it's almost like we never, or it takes us a while to transition now of that to, now take care of us, or, just switch that. But then everybody needs us, and we give and we give and we give. And that is a wonderful attribute. But you can probably see, I've seen it examples in my life where, yeah, it goes to then it turns into resentment. Then it turns into burnout. Then it turns into, and not always, I mean, we're all trying to navigate it. And it's not that they're doing anything wrong, but even in my own life, I see that pattern where I gave and I gave and I gave, and I just operated from the shoulds. What should I do? What am I supposed to do? And I didn't stop to even ask myself if this is what I wanted, or, maybe I don't want to do this, right? And then, or choosing it for myself. So that was my experience of just operating and doing, like I said, I checked all the boxes. So why am I still feeling, where's the joy that's supposed to come from all of this? Mm-hmm. But when I was honest, my thoughts about myself were really critical, which when my thoughts about myself were critical, it was coming out as criticism towards everybody else, whether I was verbalizing it or not. And that was heartbreaking for me to realize that was the path I was on, or that's where I was at that point. But also the biggest breakthrough for me to start taking accountability for my thoughts that were happening. And that was why I was showing up the way I was showing up. Now, when we have our thoughts, it's like, oh, I shouldn't think that, right? We have a lot of those. And so then there's guilt and there's shame layered on all of this. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of the challenges of why this is so tricky. And the thought, if someone came up to you and said, I love myself, what would we think? Right? Initially, sometimes I'm like, whoa, okay.
Liar.
Good for you, liar. Yeah. Right. But in our society, in our culture, there is kind of oh no, you shouldn't do that. Like that's, you can't love yourself. Like that sounds self-centered. That sounds selfish. But we're going to kind of reframe this a little bit because we need to.
We do. We need to change that.
Well, and we can be our own worst enemies.
Yes.
I'm really good at it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So that we could probably talk for hours just about the challenges of why this is so hard, especially when our kids start getting older. My youngest is 6 now, which I still have a ton of little kids, but it's a whole different world than having newborns. Like she can she can use the bathroom by herself. She can get herself food and get herself dressed. It's like, oh, this is amazing. This is wonderful. But it does take a while to switch and go, oh yeah, now what do I want? What do I need? And we reconnect with ourselves, which means there's been a disconnect. So when I was reading, as I learn these things and then I get in the scriptures, a lot of times I'm like, oh, maybe that's what the Lord was trying to say. And then of course there's a scripture, which I love now. And there's a recent talk on it about in Matthew 22, right? Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There's that thyself in there. Okay, so I just want to break that open just a little bit because how do you feel about your neighbor? It's probably, I'm guessing, and I could be wrong, a lot easier to love others, right? Our kids, our literal neighbors, our friends, the way we treat our friends, but then how do we treat ourselves? Right?
Not very nice.
Not very nice sometimes. We're not loving ourselves like we love our neighbors. So what if we switch that, right? The second commandment is to love yourself the way you love others. Oh, wait, what? It's love others the way we should be loving ourselves. So that is something that broke my brain a little bit because it validated this idea of loving myself. It's right there. It is part of the gospel. So why would he even say that? There must be, because of who he is, there must be a reason why that's in there. And so I took that to heart and have ran with it, right? Just okay, let's explore this. What is the Spirit teaching me about this? And just let the Lord download with me. And it has been beautiful. So that could be a podcast for another day, but
I'm here for it.
Right. And so this, if it's important to love ourselves, we talked about the challenges. So then how do we do it? Okay. How do we Mom, can I get my cheese balls back? No, not right now. Sorry, my kid is actually knocking on my door right now. Nope, go manage yourself. Sorry. Parent multitasking over here.
This is where it's real.
Yep.
This is just how it is. Yes. Yeah. We're working. Authenticity is my word that I'm working on. So there we go. Don't cut that out.
No, we are trying to be as authentic as can be.
Awesome. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit more about giving from abundance, because I think this concept will kind of grow itself as we talk about this. So let's jump into a little bit like these practical tips for self-love. Let's just kind of go, because I think this is where the conversation can get really fun too. Yes. Here is, if self-love is a reconnection to ourself, loving ourself, here's some self-evaluation that you can do and your audience can do. Your audience, I'm imagining, is part of this whole conversation. So how is your relationship with yourself on a scale of 1 to 5? And you can say it out loud, or you can just self-evaluate your relationship with yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. And I just want you to notice what comes up for you, where, intuitively, instinctively, what comes up for you. Okay. And that is where you have work to do. That's just for you to know, wherever that is, we have a little bit of work to do. So here's 2 thoughts that I want to offer you to consider. And it goes back to the scripture that we were talking about too. So if we are supposed to love ourselves like we love, let's just say, our friend. Okay. Love ourselves as we love our friends. Do you talk to yourself like you would a friend?
Okay. So I can't imagine saying things to Brooke that I would say to myself sometimes.
Thank you.
Right? Yeah.
It's scary, the things that we would say to ourselves.
Yeah. We do.
And I feel the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be the first thing that I would want you to encourage you or invite you to just increase in your awareness about. Become more aware of the way that you're talking to yourself. Okay. And here's my little, if you're not sure and your brain is like, no, but it's true, I really am that terrible, or I'm not enough, or I'm a terrible mom, right? Whatever it is that these thoughts come to us, I want you to, if you're not sure if it's true or not, because our brain will believe it's true, I want you to imagine the Savior saying that. Would he ever say that about you? And I just want you to notice that. And that has really helped for me to kind of gauge if it's true or not, because my brain believes that it's true, right? And I can find all the evidence to make it true. But thank goodness we have a higher and holier Savior, our brother, who can get us a little grounding to know if it's true or not. Okay. So that's the first thing I would encourage you to do, is just become aware of the way that you're speaking to yourself. And now I want you to try talking to yourself like you would a friend. And at first it's going to feel a little uncomfortable, because your brain's like, oh no, what are we doing? We're doing something different. We don't do this. And that's okay. But I want you to start talking to yourself like you would a friend. Okay. So that's the first tip. Second one is paired right with that. Now that's kind of the internal. The external is to start taking care of yourself like you would a friend. So when you
that
feel
a little harder.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me why. Why does that feel a little harder? To take care of yourself like you would a friend.
I think it's just uncomfortable because we're so programmed to think that we need to take care of everybody else first. And why would you check in on yourself and say, hey, self, do you need me to bring you dinner tonight? And by that, I mean, stop and grab something takeout and bring it home, because I'm not cooking, and not feel guilty about it, right? Yeah. It's the guilt. I think it's the guilt.
Yes. And
we guilt ourselves.
Yes, we absolutely guilt and shame and embarrassment and not enough just play a part.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you called your friend, if you guys called Brooke, if you called Kiora and you said, I don't want to cook tonight, Kiora, you'd be like, I got you.
Yep.
I got you. Okay.
Yep.
That is how I want you to check in with yourself. If you're like, I am so tired right now, I want a Diet Dr. Pepper. I got you. We can't do it right this second. We got an XYZ. Don't worry, I have mine too. We've all got our drinks over here. Yeah.
Okay.
But I want you to check in with yourself like that. Okay, yeah, Okay. And I call myself babe sometimes. I know that might be weird, but like, yeah, I got you, babe. Like we
I
can't
love
run out the
that.
door out the right this second, but next time we drive by the gas station, we're getting your drink. Right? Like I got you. I got you.
I
I love
love
that.
that. I've got
Yeah.
to start calling myself babe. We're going to do it.
It just makes it more fun and more, just it was weird at first, but we've worked up to that. I got you. So that's the second thing is that start taking care of yourself like you would have friend. What you want matters. Now, if you check in with yourself and you say, I want this, and you go, oh, yeah, I totally want that, but I'm going to choose to not do that, that's okay. It does not mean we drop everything and we never make dinner, because who really, really wants to make dinner all the time, right? But then it can come from a place of love of like, yeah, I don't want to make dinner, but I do want my kids to eat food, and I want to serve my husband because he works so hard. Then we can come from a place of love, and that's the abundance too. Is I've checked in with me, I've acknowledged how I feel matters, and we're going to go, yeah, that's good to know. It's okay that you feel that way. So why do we want to make dinner? Because we don't have to, right? That's the truth.
No,
so why do
we
I
don't.
want to? If I was going to, do I want to make dinner? Actually, yeah, I kind of do want to, now that I've allowed myself not to want to.
Yeah.
Right? But isn't that we kind of like don't want to be told what to do? But if it's our own idea, anyway, that's a deeper thing. But
Oh, yeah.
but just checking in with yourself like you would a friend. How do you feel, and what do you want? And that's valid, even if we don't do it right in that moment and we don't get to it. Like just acknowledging it like a conversation with ourselves to even know where we're at. This is reconnecting with ourselves. If that relationship is not a super strong one, this is a good place to start. Is just checking in and say, what do I want? I don't even know what I want. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the second one. The third one is a gratitude practice. Gratitude is a high frequency emotion. If you are into frequencies at all and the different frequencies of emotions, gratitude is really, really high, which is good for your mood. It's good for your health. It helps with your clarity. So a gratitude practice, meaning every day, feel the gratitude, list out and acknowledge the things that you're grateful for, and not just say it like food, clothing, and shelter, my family, the weather, right? That's a good place to start, but then go a little deeper until you feel that gratitude, till you feel that change in your body and you can feel the gratitude. That is going to feel really similar to that love that we checked in with earlier this episode. Okay. So when we felt that feeling of love, gratitude, you'll know it because it'll feel really, really good. Okay. The more you do that, it's going to train your body to feel that way. And we're going to normalize being grateful for ourselves. And that self-love might just be an unfamiliar feeling. And the more we allow ourselves to feel that, we're going to be like, oh, okay, this is our new normal. This actually feels good. And I want more of that. Okay.
And it works. I've been through this process with you many times in the last year, and it always feels so good to thank yourself in all of the things that you've done, even the things that you look at and say, gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. It's still good to say thank you for, thank you for our past mistakes.
Yeah. Gratitude can go really, really deep. It is like the gift that keeps on giving when you can tap into this gratitude. So that's a third one to improve your self-love. The fourth one is kind of hand in hand with the first two, but we would just want to, our kindness towards each other, towards ourselves. So this is part of the way we talk to ourselves and treat ourselves with kindness. Now, this blew my mind when I heard it, and I don't know where it had been my whole life. And you've probably have already heard this and put this together, but when I heard it, it blew my mind. And it is that kindness is different than being nice. There's a difference, but kindness begins with our thoughts. Can we truly be kind to the people around us if we're having critical thoughts about them, if we are judging them? So being outward and nice isn't always kindness, right? Does that make sense? Is that like when you hear it, you're like, well, yeah, that makes sense. But I had never heard it explained like that. And it really got me to check my heart, check my own heart, check my thoughts with all the relationships in my life. So that was
really good.
So kindness towards yourself is going to start with your thoughts. And that goes back to the way you talk to yourself. So I just wanted to plug that in there too.
It's a good one.
Okay. I think this is number 5.
Six.
5 or 6? 6? 5? Talk to yourself.
5. Okay.
Take care of yourself. Gratitude, kindness.
Okay, so 5.
Say organize is affirmation. So positive affirmations or helpful affirmations, and what those are new thoughts to help your brain think more positively, to think with more gratitude, to think thoughts that will help you feel this self-love. Okay. I like to put affirmations all around my house. They're just on little index cards, and I write them. You can look them up. You can come up with them yourself, whatever feels like you need to be thinking, and it will help retrain your brain to think those thoughts. The more you see them subconsciously, I have them in my bathroom. I have written on my mirror with dry erase marker. I have these positive messages, these affirmations. Affirmations is like I am and the kind of person that you are, right? Or who you want to be or how you want to feel about yourself. Like even like nice messages to yourself. Like if you were going to write these messages to your best friend and you wanted her to put them all over her house, what would they say? And then that will help your brain be trained to think those thoughts more naturally. Okay. Any thoughts?
I'm imagining putting them all over my house and my family thinking I'm crazy, but I don't care.
No. I have boys. They're like, Mom, what is this? I'm like, oh, trust me. And then sometimes it spills out of their mouth because they don't even realize.
They're reading it.
They don't even realize those are the thoughts going into their mind. I'm like, woohoo, good mom. Like,
that's right.
You can call me crazy all day long, but look, you just told yourself you were smart. You just told yourself that you were capable. Like, sweet.
I love it.
Well, and I think we need that these days because there's so much negativity.
Yes. Yeah. And our brain gravitates to the negativity. It's really, really prone to that. So
that's lame.
Our brains are designed to keep us safe and looking for danger. Yeah. And so they're going to see all the negativity, but that's why we need to retrain it, you know? So, and the more you look for the good, the more you look for the positive, you'll start seeing it too.
Yeah.
One more thing hand in hand with the affirmations, and plenty of us are probably already doing this, is having scriptures that we can read. And scriptures are wonderful and they have depth to them and where they come from, but simply put, they're positive thoughts. They're hopeful thoughts. They give our brains, right, a new thought to believe. Have you ever been in a situation where like a scripture popped into your mind? Yeah. That's because it was there, right? It may not have been the default that you say every single day, but in the times that you need them, you will recall them. They're there in your brain. And we want more of that. We want more of that. Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, the last tip that I have for improving your self-love is to wink at yourself in the mirror. And at first, might feel a little uncomfortable, but start making eye contact with yourself in the mirror. Check in, like, I got you. I see you. Good job. So winking is just a simple one, like when you're walking by, like, hey, I see you. But then you could also say those kinds of things to yourself too. Like, good job today. Nobody told you thank you for making the dinner and cleaning up, but I see you. You're awesome. You are the hero in this story, right? Those kinds of thoughts. Like, good job. And that will be so much more validating even, and this is a hard one for my brain to grasp, was even more validating than like my kids saying it. Because if my kids go, Mom, thanks for making dinner and cleaning up, I go, you little stinkers, why didn't you help me? You were just like, you're not really grateful. If you were really grateful, you would have blah, blah, blah. Like my brain will sometimes reject that, right? When other people or they do that, I don't believe it. My brain doesn't always believe it. But when I look at myself in the mirror, when I tell myself, I see you, I acknowledge you, I appreciate you, I validate you, that is powerful. That's what we really are actually looking for, right? We need that. We need to believe that.
Yes, that is so important.
Yeah. So those are my tips. It is at first, but then once it gets easier, it changes everything.
So good.
I do. I love that.
Yeah. Love it.
Okay.
It's awesome. Okay.
Do we have one more topic we wanted to dive into? Do we have a question about self-sabotage a little bit? Did we want
Yes.
to talk about that?
Overcoming self-sabotage, which is totally what I'm doing, is you're talking about all these positives.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so natural to go there.
Okay, so self-sabotage. Tell me what's coming up for you. What does that mean? Like, what is your brain doing right now that's like fighting against this?
Well, I don't like to be left alone with my own brain because it doesn't end up in a positive place generally. And Adam will be like, "Oh, you had some time by yourself today, didn't you?" I'll be like, how can you tell? So sabotaging, I mean, that's the way I do it. It's just that time by myself and I can just beat myself right up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's hard. That doesn't feel good.
No,
but it's familiar. It probably feels really familiar. And so what if it's not really like self-sabotage isn't really a thing? Really, our brain is just trying to figure it out. But when you are sick of feeling that way and you're done and you're like, okay, I see that I'm doing that. That is a pattern that I have. I don't like being by myself with my thoughts for very long. Like, that's actually good to know, right?
Yeah.
It's good to know. And when you're done with it, I do this. I go, oh, okay, Alicia, that's enough of that. I'll have my like weeks and weeks of just like, I know better and I'm not using my tools and I'm not, whatever. And then I'm like, okay, when you're good and ready and you're done and you don't want to do that anymore, then you don't have to. But that takes effort. That takes work, right? To be intentional and manage our mind and not let our brains, this like part that looks for danger and criticism, like that's when we have to interrupt our thoughts and say, okay, brain, thanks, but no. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Now, if you don't replace it with other thoughts, your brain will just keep going to what is familiar. So you have to say, no, brain, instead of that, we're going to try this one on. And the more you practice it, just like a muscle, it will get stronger. It's a neural pathway in our brain to think thoughts that are more useful, that are more helpful, that feel better. So gratitude is always like, I remember in 2019 was a hard place for me. There was chemical imbalances and I just felt like there was darkness all the time internally. And I'm pretty much a glass half full type of person, but I could not see the glass half full. It was just, I struggled. And I remember at the end of 2019, I determined, I was like, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. And I did this gratitude list and it was so hard to come up with even like 25 things, but I made myself do it. And then I filled up, this is amazing. I don't think I've ever shared this with anybody, but then I filled up 5 pages of things I was grateful for. And that feeling, that light that came, I've never gone to that place again. Now I've had bad days and I definitely have gone back to that familiar place, but that gratitude, that raising my vibrations, that kind of alignment with what we're told to give thanks throughout the whole scriptures, right? There's there's reasons for this.
Yeah.
It's helping us. It's not for him. He doesn't need us to give us the thanks, give him the thanks. It's for us. So gratitude really, for me, that was when I was ready to step out of that and not do that anymore. That's where I started. And then all of these other tools kind of added to that. So also, when you're becoming more aware of your thoughts and you're trying to speak to yourself more kindly and take care of yourself and have gratitude and do these affirmations and do your mirror work and all of this, like, it's going to feel like, again, your brain and your body are going to want to go back to old familiar patterns. And we're going to simplify it. That's all it is. If we can take away the shame and the heaviness of it, right, of why we go back to those old ways, it's just because it's familiar. And that's when we have to intentionally go, oh yeah, I didn't want to feel like this. And when you're good and ready, then you can step out of that with these tools. Now, if we don't know what to think and we don't know what's going on, that makes it really, really hard. And that's where we get stuck. But when you're done, right? I get it. People, I used to spiral all the time, and that was just what I did, and I didn't like it. And then, but I would still do it, and I still do it sometimes because it's familiar and comfortable. But I don't do it as long, and they don't go as deep. It's like this work in a nutshell. The highs get higher and the lows get higher, slowly but surely. And it will feel almost so natural that unless you look back at where you were a year ago, you're not even going to notice it. Sometimes you'll have these breakthroughs and like, whoa, that was different. And those are awesome, right? But for the most part, when you just become more kind to yourself and more loving to yourself, then naturally you're going to be more kind and loving towards others. When you have kinder thoughts about yourself, you're going to have more compassion, and it'll be easier to have kinder thoughts about others. It's just the way it works. It's just the way it works.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Okay.
That's so awesome.
Wow, I love it.
Me too.
Well, and we can call ourselves Babe.
That's right.
Yep.
I see a sticker in our future.
That is true.
Well, we have really been blessed by having you come on our podcast today.
Well, and to be a part of our lives.
And just, yeah.
We've both been talking to her on our own, so.
Yeah, we've both been having coaching on our own, and I've just gotten over the year mark with mine, I think. It's been over a year now. Yeah. And we were talking about the me when we first started versus the me now, and how much I've grown and changed. And there's still so much to do, but man, it feels so good to be on the other side of the negative and the sabotaging as a constant daily thing, because now I have tools that are helping me. So, and we still have bad days, but they're getting fewer and further between.
Well, and I know the one day that I was having some very strong anxiety, you were able to walk me through it because of the tools.
Yeah. And it felt so good to help.
Well, I appreciate
it did. Well, I appreciated you trusting me to talk to me about it. So
now we can just talk to ourselves that way.
Yeah, totally. Well, Alicia has some really great programs, coaching programs on her website. So we are going to drop that in the show notes. And then we're also going to post it on our Instagram and Facebook pages. But in the meantime, if you want to go to Alicia's website, it is Alicia, Alicia, Kathleen, KATHLEEN.com. So Alicia, Kathleen.com. And you can see what she's offering right now. We're really excited because in January, there is a Learn to Love the Woman in the Mirror 6-week workshop coming up. So you are going to want to sign up for this. And there's more info on the website for that. And then also, please go to Facebook and follow Alicia. I can't talk today. Alicia Kathleen Coaching, or Instagram at Confident Wives. Follow her on all of your social medias because she posts some fantastic content and things that are they just get you thinking and they get you feeling good and motivated. And I am just grateful that Alicia's part of my life and my friend circle. I feel like it wasn't a coincidence the way we met. It was such a weird way to meet, but also just the coolest. Yeah. And then I was able to pull Kiora in and introduce her, and it's just been great. So, yeah.
I don't think you've told me how you met her, so you'll have to share that sometime.
I will. I'd be happy to.
So, well, Alicia, do you have anything you want to wrap it up with?
No, just thanks for having me on here. This is really fun. And, I could talk about this forever. So thanks for keeping me focused on this. And, and yeah, I'm just, the more we can, again, I would love for this to just become a normal conversation that we have in our circles and helping others. And that would just, that's the point. That's the point. Let's help each other.
Amen to that.
Well, and it takes all of us helping each other. Can't do this alone.
That's right.
So,
okay. So, listeners out there, we would love for you to come up with a gratitude list and start with just thinking of 25 things you'd like to thank yourself for, and then share on social media some of those things that you love about yourself and that you're grateful to yourself for. And make sure that you use the hashtag Empty Nest Adventures so it's easy to find. But we really want to invite all of you to start practicing self-love and self-care and calling yourself babe and winking at yourself in the mirror. Like, who doesn't want to do that? That sounds so fun. So you're all invited. And if you're not already following us, check us out on secondact.sisters, Instagram and Facebook. And then also follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube.
Well, and come and join the workshop in January, because Brooke and I are going to be there. And Alicia will be there.
And Alicia, yes. The most important person in the workshop.
Okay, so as we wrap this up for today, I was trying to come up with a quote that went along and came up with a few. And then we couldn't narrow it down. So we're just going to share a couple of quotes. So the first one is by Elder Joseph B. Worthland. And it says, if you could see yourself as God sees you, you would see someone capable of doing greater things than you have ever imagined. And I love that. Can you imagine looking through their eyes at us and just seeing us that way? Okay, and by Bradley R. Wilcox, you have got this because he has got you. And we can't do this alone. We need each other. We need God. And we need ourselves. Mm-hmm. So as we come to an end today, and I'm losing my voice, we're grateful that you're here. We're grateful that Alicia's been here. And we love you. And we hope you'll join us again and come join us in her course in January.
Yes, we love you.
Okay, love you. Till next time.
Bye.